All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Good Wednesday evening to each and every last one of you. We are joined here this evening with our guest in the Adams Brothers Podcast studio here, Mr. Rodney Baltimore from WHQT Hot 105 Radio. You can catch Rodney on the radio every morning, weekdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. On the Ricky Smiley Moring Show. So, Rodney Baltimore, welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast, my brother.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Adam Brothers, for allowing me to be part of your podcast. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, you're welcome, and we enjoy listening to you on the radio. You've been on the radio forever. So before we get started, just go ahead and tell the audience about Rodney Baltimore. Who is Rodney Baltimore? Just tell them about you and where you grew up and how long you been at Hot 105.
Well, I'm from parts unknown. Only kidding. That's what they do in the wrestling matches. From
That's
parts
right.
unknown.
Yes.
But anyway, I grew up in New Jersey, and I've been in South Florida since the 80s, around 1980, 81. And I work at Hot 105. I started my career in South Florida at WRBD, Rockin' Big Daddy, Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
Charles Mitchell. And then from there, I went to 99 Jams and worked with BJ Barry and Jerry Russian, and then James T. And then I went over to Hot 105, working under Hector Hannibal, also Derek Brown, Tony Phils, and Phil Michaels. So that's how I started my career in South Florida, and I've become entrenched in this community.
Yes, you have, and I really enjoy listening to you on the radio. You're a delight to listen to, and
Well, thank you.
I'm sure everybody here in South Florida, in the Tri-County area here, we just love listening to you every morning, and we enjoy you, and we thank you for your work that you do in the community here in South Florida. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And like I said, it's a joy, it's a labor of love that I have for this community, especially the Black community and the Black diaspora community that we have in here. We have a lot of history, not just in the state, but in South Florida. And I embrace the cultures, the various cultures, and it's a labor of love.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met Rodney years ago. I'll tell you a little story how I met Rodney. I was down at the Old Elks Club in Fort Lauderdale, off of Broward Boulevard and Powerline, I believe it is.
Northwest 2nd Street and 7th
Avenue.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. So I met Rodney down there at the Old Elks Club in Fort Lauderdale, and been knowing Rodney for quite a few years now. I don't see him as often, but I always enjoy talking to you whenever I get a chance to see you out in public. You have, so much knowledge, man, especially if you've ever talked to Rodney. Rodney knows so much about a lot of things, especially I think a lot of people want to know why you aren't a politician here in South Florida somewhere.
It's because I can't fund myself. I'm very active socially, politically, with events. Sometimes I see things that I may not necessarily agree with. Sometimes I don't want to be beholden to someone that may fund me. And so, my job as a community advocate and activist is to question some things, embrace some other things, and share information with the public. So I just try to cover all gamuts.
Yes. And I talked to you in one-on-one up in Deerfield at one of the events they had out there, and I tell you, man, just listening to Rodney, man, you would swear that he is a politician, man. He just knows so much about a lot of different areas here, and in our community and politics and how politics work. So hopefully one day in the future, and when you're probably done with your radio career, maybe hopefully we could hopefully get you into politics somewhere down the line there.
Or at least as a consultant. I think we have a lot of bright people here in South
Yes.
Florida, and that path would be kind of to coalesce all that power, all that energy that we have in here, and rely on ourselves politically. And if we can do the politicking and the economics, and I'm talking about financing our own campaigns, not being beholden to developers or special interest groups. Some don't that are even not part of this country, but control our own destiny. That's the key.
Yes, absolutely. And while you've been working at Hot 105, Rodney, what famous celebrities have you met? I know it's been a lot of them,
Probably
but
a lot of
which
them.
one sticks out in your mind that is really like just always at the front of your mind there when you think about the celebrities that you've met?
Oh man, there have been so many, and there have been some. Let me just say that I wish I had never met. When you see them behind the scenes, but I mean, some have been a delight to work with. Anita Baker is a gem in terms of how she is. There was a rapper back in the day. Her name is Yo-Yo Yolanda Whitaker, out of the West Coast. She was a delight to work with. Jeffrey Osborne is a joy to work with. Howard Hewitt is extraordinary.
Shalimar.
Night Star is good. Joe is good. Tommy Davison, who frequents South Florida often. He's just a nice guy. I mean, you see him in South Florida. You might see him in Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood somewhere, but he's a nice guy. So it's been a number of good people, including some of our civic leaders. John Lewis, the late John Lewis, was extraordinary. B.B. King was a delight for me. Little Richard, we hung out in his room at one of the shows that he had. So it's multi-generational in terms of the performers. Some of the Music Soul Child, I think he's an extraordinary guy. Also, I just can't think of his name right now. Out of Indiana, he used to be the truck driver. He's got the big song that sounds like Marvin Gaye. His name will come to me in a second, but he's a delight. And sometimes you see some of these performers. Beyonce, we used to take her to the flea market, okay, and Janet Jackson, and you see them now at the apex of their career, and so a lot of them have been delightful to be around and see them grow. Tyler Perry used to beat Tracy Cloyd and I to our job. We get to the job early in the morning. He's in the car waiting for us so he can get on the radio promote one of his plays. Now I don't see him, but that was the humbleness of what he was trying to do, and you see where he's at today. So I've been blessed enough to meet a lot of wonderful people in a business that is not always wonderful. A lot of heartache in the entertainment business on the entertainment side.
Right. And you mentioned Jeffrey Osborne. I believe he's going to be at the Lauderhill Performing Arts Center here on February the 8th.
I'll be hosting that show.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm going to buy tickets to that, so I'll probably see you there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Rhode Island, correct?
Exactly. He's out of Rhode Island, and one of the groups that came out of that Northeast Corner, Rhode Island, and then a little bit above another group back in the day, Tavares. They came from Boston, and actually they live in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area as well. But a lot of good music came out of Donna Summer. Came out of the Boston area, and some of these groups come out of Connecticut and different places. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, Wayne, you have a question?
Yes, Rodney. How was you able to stay relevant in an ever-changing music business?
Oh, that is difficult. I am not as entrenched as I was because I don't do a lot of music these days. But you could see a continuum of musical styles. As a child, my folks, they went back to, my grandfolks went back to the 30s and the 40s, but like from the 40s up, I could see the progression of what they used to call race music. That was black music. They called it race music. And then you had the doo-wop music that came out of the gospel quartets. And then, of course, you had the soul, and then you had the rock. Then you had the psychedelic era. Then you had the disco. Then you had the rap. And on the Caribbean side, you had the ska, the rock steady, the lovers rock, the dub, and then you come up to dance hall, and of course calypso and soca, and then the Latin tinge, merengue, salsa, and all that stuff. So you see the progression, and the energy is that at the time you embrace the music because it's for your generation, it's for you. But as you get older, just like a lot of things, we get our own periods of music that we like particularly. So I can't identify with Gorilla or the City Girls. They don't speak. That doesn't speak to me. But other artists, SZA will speak to me as opposed to those other artists. But you try to be aware of what's going on to see, because music, these are our poets, and sometimes we have these poison poets that tell you to do things, or your children or your grandchildren, that is to their detriment. But they're artists, and sometimes they don't do those things, but they want you to do those things or buy their records. So you got to be very careful with these poison poets that are out there.
Yeah. And also, I remember earlier you mentioned some names, man, that we grew up with in the 1970s here in Broward County and throughout the Palm Beach and Dade County area, like Joe Fisher, Charles the Dream Mitchell. The last I heard, I believe he was in Atlanta somewhere, but I know he left, came back, but he was definitely one of the legends here.
Let me tell you a story about Charles. Charles Mitchell, I was working in Fort Pierce at one time, and I got hired in Orlando. Charles Mitchell was working there. We happened to be from the same town, and in New Jersey. And so we struck up a friendship. And one day he was going to leave to come to South Florida. Joe Fisher, who's an extraordinary radio personality, he would go around the state looking for new talent, looking to hire something new to bring to Rockin' Big Daddy, WRBD. Right. And he heard Charles, and he hired Charles, and Charles left. And Charles, before he left, he said, "Ma'am, I'm going to bring you down to Fort Lauderdale." And I'm like, "No, I'm happy in Orlando. I'm working, I'm doing okay." And it took about a year and a half, maybe close to 2, I don't know. But Charles called me one day, and I was in a relationship. And he said, "Man, I got this job for you." And also there's another guy. And so he called me, and it was in July. It was the day, it was July around the 4th. Came down and worked at WRBD with Charles. And then he eventually left, went to New York City to work in New York. That was always his dream. That's what most of the DJs, you want to work in New York City because you got 15 million people listening to you. And the money's
big market. That's a big market. Yeah.
It's the number one radio market in terms of listenership. And then Charles went to Atlanta. I believe he's in that area now.
Yeah, because like I say, a lot of the names you called, I remember Joe Fisher's brother Lou, I believe his name.
Lou Fisher worked Magic. Mad Hatter. Prince, Francis, Mario de Jesus, Groove Master, Barry Stevens,
Storm and Norman,
Champagne Holloway, Daphne Taylor, just a lot of talented people. Jerome, I can't think of his last name. He did the gospel show.
Gospel, yes, he did. Jerome, like you say, I can't remember his name either. But
I've been fortunate enough to work with some very talented people, and I learned from them.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Chico the Virgil.
James Carnegie, huh?
You can't forget about Chico the Virgo.
Chico the Virgo,
Yeah.
Chico the Virgo, who is still doing what he does. And I tell Chico this, and I tell anyone, if you want to listen to the best DJ on the radio, Chico the Virgo.
Yes, he is.
Yes,
Pound for pound, still to this day, because now with the newer mindset of radio programming and DJs, they read cards. They'll get a card and they'll read a card. Yo, this is your great radio station. Hey, blah blah blah. But Chico can get up there pound for pound. He can improvise. He's got something to say about each and everything. So he's an extraordinary job. Paula Hawks, who does our gospel show as well, she's an extraordinary talent that has been around for a while, and she can do that traditional and contemporary and the praise and worship, as you talk about different musical styles, not just in the R&B, but gospel music and Caribbean music as well. And
also, Rodney, what happened to the decline of Black ownership of radio stations? How did that come about? Because, like I say, back in the days, we had WRBD, and they were the heart and soul of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. And what happened?
And the Bahamas.
And the Bahamas, that's right, because they always used to say the Bahamas.
And the Bahama
we
Islands.
always wondered what happened to the decline. I remember the guy from Pantry Pride. I can't think his name. The executive. John Ruffin. That's right. The late John Ruffin. Jonathan.
He was the one who hired me. John Ruffin. He's gone to glory, but his wife is still here. He purchased WRBD, and once Charles said he was going to hire me, I had to come down here, and John met me, and we talked for about a few minutes, and he said, "Okay, I'll hire you." And then you got to wear a suit and tie or a sports jacket and dress shirt to work. I mean, he changed the whole dynamic of just coming into the radio in a sweatshirt, or a t-shirt. But what happened with the technology changed. AM radio used to be very prevalent. And everybody listened to AM, and the reason because the signal carries. And they call it amplitude modulation, AM radio. And so AM was good. Now, FM was the bad stepchild. Nobody wanted an FM radio station. But now, as the technology changed, people start to switch over to FM. The backstory is this with Black ownership. Blacks were not really allowed to have ownership of a Black radio station. It was usually owned by Jews or some whites, and was usually a radio station at the top of the dial, 1600, 1500, 1400. And of course, what they would do, they would either lease the time or broker the time, or they would have a Black formatted radio station. But the big revenue came to the owners. And of course, the management was always Black, because you can't say you're going to service a Black audience and only have Black DJs. You need to have a Black general manager, you have Black salespeople, and that dynamic has kind of changed over the years. But John Ruffin was one of the first Black owners. And then we had Mr. Churban, who's of Haitian descent. He has a radio station. You had Bishop Victor Curry, who owns WHQT, which is the classic Black radio station, one of the original Black radio stations that's still on the air in Miami. And then you had the Cherry, Charles Cherry. Folks owned up a station up in the Daytona. Yeah. So, but we've been shut out of ownership, and that's still a problem today. In terms of very few Black-owned radio stations, and it's a boys' club, in my opinion, to keep us out of that ownership. Because if we totally control the ownership, we could totally control our destiny. I mean, there are certain things that white management that's not culturally sensitive would allow, that a Black manager would not allow because of a cultural connection. You can't do this, Junior. You can't do this, it's a time and place. So that's kind of the thing now. Another big thing that's going on right now, Elon Musk and some other folks, they want to get rid of AM radio in cars. And it's still a viable band. If you look at some of the conservative movements here, you saw the rise of Trump and some of these other folk. A lot of their success outside of television is on AM radio around the country, on those stations in the Midwest and in the South, in rural areas. So AM is still very viable. We just have to hear it. The amplitude modulation gives it a different sound quality. FM is just frequency modulation, and that's more of a clearer sound. But there's technologies to work on that. That's just kind of my assessment.
Yeah, I noticed just listening to AM radio, like certain times of morning, like the signal goes in and out. Does the signal get stronger as the day? Do they put out more watts during the day, or is it about the same? Because I noticed there's a difference. Sometimes it's clearer, and then early in the morning, and then it'll fade off. But I always wanted to know that
with the amplitude modulation. And now we live in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Now the AM radio, it's like real jaggedy. So the signal comes from a transmitter, and it goes up. It hits the cloud. Now, sometimes the clouds are low, sometimes they are high, but usually during the daytime, the clouds are higher so you can hear it. Now, at night, the clouds are lower, and then sometimes stations have to switch down on their wattage. So you would hear, let's say, WPOM up in Palm Beach. Hear WRBD, and then you'd have to cut the power down so you don't interfere with stations in Cuba. Or stations that might be as far as Indiana, because that AM signal will carry it. The clouds will carry it, so you would interfere with other stations. There's a station called WLAC, which is in Nashville, that you still can listen to. Here in South Florida, people would listen to it. A couple stations in Charlotte, Augusta, Georgia, that would bounce because at night, sometimes I used to play with my car radio, and just listen to stations all around the country. If I can pick them up now, you can just go on the internet and go to the website and listen. But that used to be fun back in the day to do. Yeah. But that's the story with AM radio. It's demise in that regard, and but it's needed.
Right. Did you ever work at Foxy 1040?
No, I didn't. But that's one of those stations. That's a station you can hear that station all over, just like you can hear Sugar 900 back in the day.
That's right.
With Harvey Poole, that back in one of the great DJs back there. But they have one of these great signals. And remember, that's in the middle of the dial, 900, Sugar 900, and 1040. It's not at the top of the dial. The top of the dial, they gave to folks that they didn't really want to give it to. Then eventually we got it. So that's
yeah, that was a good radio station back in the 80s.
You go to Virgil, Lady D,
That's right.
Yes. I forgot about Lady D. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I believe Cox Radio owns a lot of the radio stations down here in South Florida right now. Am I correct?
Yeah, we have 4 radio stations in South Florida. We have Hot 105, of course, which I work at. We have 99 Jams. We have Hits 97. And we have Easy 93. And all of those stations are top performing stations. All of them are FM stations. All of them in the same building.
Right. Yeah. And I used to enjoy so much listening to the Love Doctor, Freddie Cruz, man. I really miss hearing Freddie. Freddie was on the radio for, I believe, over 25 years. The Quiet Storm.
Right. Everybody was the originator of the Quiet Storm in South Florida. Was
Detroit.
Lindsay out of WHQT in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Okay.
At the time, there was a program director, Bill Tanner, had hired Freddie, and they debuted the Hot 105 40 years ago. And Freddie did an extraordinary job with that show. And we can't forget also Huey Baby Anderson, who just recently passed at 99 It was Soul Star then. He had a similar program that was on since the 80s. 1980.
Yeah, Jill Tracy passed
Jill
too.
Tracy.
We
I was
lost
just
Jill
gonna say Jill
Tracy.
Tracy.
And
Yes.
I'm still feeling that. And my condolences. It's just that it was unexpected on my part, and I am still dealing with that issue.
Yeah, because she was getting ready to run for a public office somewhere in Hollywood, I believe it was, or somewhere.
Commissioner. Though she passed away, she did get like over 1,000 votes.
I saw that.
wow.
I saw that on election night.
Yeah. I used to listen to her up in Orlando here a few years ago before she came back down to I believe South Florida. I heard her on the radio up in I believe it was starting on at 94.5 if I'm not mistaken.
It's a possibility she could have been up there. She went Jill was in Los Angeles with Iyanla Vanzant for a few years. She was with her and honed a lot of her skills and came back to South Florida.
Yeah. She had a great. She started doing the Sunday night talk after Chief Jimmy Brown had passed away, which was another great Hot 105 voice on Sunday nights with the politics, and he did it all. Chief Jimmy Brown. He used to pastor a church here in Deerfield Beach. What was the name of that church there?
Yeah, he was a police chief. He did he was pastor at a few churches, Ebenezer. I think he was at the Nebo and a few others. He was had various degrees and accomplishments. He was extraordinary talent.
Yes, he was.
Chief Jimmy Brown. Now on WMBM as we speak, there is a show called the Chief Jimmy Brown Show that's hosted every Sunday night.
Yep.
And there's another host, but they use the name Jimmy Brown. They do the same thing on an AM station, on Bishop Curry's radio station.
Yes.
And what is and my final question for you, Rodney? We used to hear James T on the radio, and we know he's no longer on Hot 105 anymore. What is James T doing these days? Do you know?
I don't have any specifics, but whatever it is, it's good.
Yeah.
James is probably he's the spirit of radio. James was always community conscious.
Yes, he was.
He was always a visionary and a forward thinker, and he's very positive.
Military veteran.
Yes.
When he talks about this man cannot talk without mentioning God.
Yep.
He cannot talk without mentioning motivation. He cannot talk without suggesting you check this out, or you listen to this speaker, or giving you, I said, a Bible verse or something like that. Extraordinary. I miss him as well.
Yeah, we listened to him growing up as kids, growing up here as kids. We listened to James T, and it was amazing to listen to him as a kid growing up, and then get to adult, and he's still in the industry. He still was in the industry at that time, exactly. Just like Chico, listening to those guys, and that's some of our history here in South Florida. And I wanted to ask you, how was it to work with the legendary Tom Joyner, even though they were in Dallas when he came here? How was it to work with him, and what type of person is
Tom? Is what you hear on the radio. I work in the next room over here, and Tom got up every morning, and Tom, I would be in one room, he would be in the other room. Now he did his national program. Of course, Tom was here with me in South Florida because this is his home now. J. Anthony Brown lived in Los Angeles. Sybil lived in Dallas and LA at a time. Myra was in Atlanta. Miss Dupree was in New Orleans. And Tom was what you heard on the radio. That was Tom Joyner. Jovial, likes to joke, sees the funny side of things, and very serious about radio, but looked for a good time.
Yeah. And all his years on the radio, he never talked about himself being a military vet. He would talk about it with you. If he didn't really, I read his book, and I read that when he was in the military, and I was like, well, he never talked about it on his show for broadcasting. He was in there.
Sometimes, when you work in media, you don't want everybody in your business, you know, and you want to keep some things private. You know, we have DJs that don't use their real names, just to keep some sense of privacy from people bothering you, because those that I mentioned, they are what you hear, but there are some other DJs that they're not what you hear. And they don't want to be bothered with you. And after they, you know, they're having fun on the radio, then that's it. They want to live a quiet life, you know, or they want to be wild and you know, and reckless. But that was their thing, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Tom, we enjoyed attending his Sky shows. I mean, we used to see you there.
Oh yeah.
Back in the days when they would come to either Miami or Broward. Like the last time I
Parker
saw you
Playhouse.
there. Yeah, the Parker Playhouse. We were there. We saw you there, and yeah. It was good. I missed those days with the Sky shows here.
And we wish Tom well too. We know he was a little bit under the weather, so Tom Joyner, if you're out there watching, we wish you well.
Yes.
The fly
but
job,
hasn't stopped him. He's still doing. He still raises over $1 million for
HBCUs.
Schools to HBCUs. He still does that year. He's still the foundation. If he stopped tomorrow, he would have done enough.
Yeah,
but he still keep going, you know. And the cruise is going to be next October, and they're going to raise over $1 million something to get these, especially now under the current political climate. For these schools for funding, everybody's going to need some money, and we have to support each other.
Yes, we do.
Oh, he helped send
and he set
so many blacks to
Sky
college.
shows, the cruise, just everything. You know, any fundraiser that he was involved in was a success. He is the epitome of an alpha DJ.
Yeah. If anyone missed the Sky show when they came here to South Florida,
it was a treat.
They missed something special back in the days. I can remember me and Daryl getting up sometimes 3-4 o'clock in the morning just to go get in the line. We would miss work that day. Just to go see. And the last time I remember we were there, we saw Morris Day and the Time.
Yes.
Tevin Campbell. He was there that morning. It was oh God. One night of I can't think of the group. They were there. All of them. Sadiz, I believe his name was.
Raphael Sadiq. Tony. Raphael Sadiq.
Yeah, they were. They all were there one morning, but
they're extraordinary people to work with. They're so nice.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah, it was just a pleasure to go to those Sky shows. I was fortunate enough to attend 3, I believe it was, when they came here. But that's pretty much it for
and for free.
For free, yeah. We didn't pay anything. We had a very good time. You know, we ran into our mutual friend Stan the Man down there. You know, and you know.
Colvin, saw him on MLK Day. Me and him talked at the parade here in Deerfield. We talked. I hadn't saw him in a few years, but we talked.
I tried to catch up with him. They do a giveaway at the
American Legion
post, you know, and I missed him by a few minutes. I went up there just to see, you know, say hey. And, he's gone. He's been here all day giving out toys, so I understand.
Yeah, he didn't even tell us. You know, we didn't know. Would advertise it on our podcast, or he would call us, but I guess he forgot this year. So
we told him. We gotta remember this time because we're gonna bring him back on Christmas to explain that. We're gonna do that.
Yeah, but I mean, in getting back to just one more thing about Tom. Tom wasn't just about music. Tom, you look at all the political figures that have been on his show.
Yes.
You look at some of the things that between him and at the time Tavis Smiley. Tavis is on the air at KBLA right now in Los Angeles, and also WOL in DC. And when they had that challenge, they had the Hewlett Packard with the computers that we didn't buy computers as Black folk, and we showed our economic strength and being respected. You know, our dollars. So I mean. Tom Joyner's classic radio show.
Yes, classic.
Yes,
and we won't want to let you go before we talk about Ricky Smiley, who you currently working with in the morning with the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. And does he broadcast live from Dallas, Texas, or is it here in South Florida?
He moves around. Sometimes he's here in South Florida. Sometimes he's up in Birmingham. Sometimes he's in Dallas. But he moves around. But every time he's in the building here, we come in, we hug each other, we say hello, and he's doing his book right now. His book tour. He was recently at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center, and
beautiful place
down there. And we spoke for a few minutes. And he's a very humble man. He's experienced some loss in his life. That's still challenging, I would imagine, but he keeps going.
Oh yeah. He's a true legend. I mean, on the comedy circuit and on the radio circuit. You couldn't ask for a better person to succeed Tom Joyner when he retired.
And you can catch him down at the Improv too. He does like his little comedy shows and
Stardom. He does Stardom, does the karaoke stuff and
karaoke night. Down at the Improv down in Dania Beach. So if you get a chance to go down and check out Ricky Smiley at his next karaoke show down there. So
one of our viewers said Tap Squad said they just saw Tom Joyner at the Heat game last week.
Okay. Tom is still active. I mean, he's still out there doing a thing. He still got the plane, still going here and there.
Oh yeah.
That's Taffy. Yeah. That Tap Squad. That's Taffy Armstrong. I believe her nephew works for 99 Jams. It's
Ricky Smiley.
Yeah, I forget his
Antoine.
Yeah. Antoine the
Don.
Antoine the Don. Yes.
Yeah, that's Taffy's. Our friend Taffy's. She's on here now.
Hello, Miss Taffy. How you doing today?
Yeah. You remember Miss Taffy, yeah. So if you just joined us, we've been talking to Rodney Baltimore from WHQT Hot 105 Radio here in South Florida here. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we all enjoy listening to you each and every morning, bright and early. I believe you get to the studio around 3:45 in the morning just to get ready for the Ricky Smiley Morning Show.
Yeah.
And look, he's still in the studio right now,
And if there's anyone that should be in the Hall of Fame of radio, wherever, especially in Florida, South Florida, it definitely should be you, Rodney.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are a legend, just like all the other names that you called out earlier. We
need to add your name
grew up. We all lived our life listening to you in the morning, and still enjoyable to hear you right now, still on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I just hope that whatever I do, I make a positive impact on people, and I empower them.
You do.
So I thank you so much, for the opportunity. Yeah. Wayne and Daryl, your podcast. Thank you for thinking of me to, come on.
Hey man, like we just said, man, your name deserves to be up there with the greatest, and that's why we wanted you here on this podcast here. So thank you very much. We know you're very busy, man, and we're gonna be talking to you here real soon. And thank you for coming on our podcast, man. We really appreciate what you do on Hot 105 and here
in the community,
in the Tri-County area here in our community. Thank you very much.
You're a legend. I appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Rodney Baltimore, have a great evening, and God bless you.
And one of the last viewers, Cassandra Moy Mays, said, "Hello, Adam Brothers, and my dear friend of over 40 years, Rodney Baltimore." Cassandra Moy Mays.
And one of our loyal listeners. She's an extraordinary woman up in your area, as a matter of fact.
Yes. She's from Deerfield Beach here.
She's from here.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rodney, and we appreciate you here on our podcast, and we'll be talking soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.